Hey everyone, it's Will Heeman, and as we start getting into some sweater weather, that is the time where we're starting to look at if you've brought any of your houseplants outside, we need to start thinking about bringing them inside as the nighttime temperatures and even the daytime temperatures get a little bit chilly. So we're going to cover all the things you need to consider when you're bringing them in to make sure that you can acclimatize them to be healthy and happy indoors over the winter time. So the first thing you want to do when you are bringing your plants in is make sure that they're clean. Nice clean leaves, no dust on them, so that they can photosynthesize better and process the light that's going to be lower in the wintertime. But more importantly, making sure that the leaves are clean of any insects, because when they're outside, they could get things like aphids and spider mite that are commonly found outside. We're going to do that visual inspection and check to make sure that we don't see any. And it's important to make sure you're looking under the bottom of the leaves, because that's a very common place where they're hanging out, as well as on the stems of your plants. And when you are doing that inspection, I like to always just go and do a preventative spray, because I find that I sleep better at night knowing that I've done everything in case I'm not seeing those really small spider mites or insects that are on there. You can use any of the products that you might have at home. A common one is insecticidal soap. I prefer to use something with pyrethrum and soap, like an Andal or the SCHULTZ, or even this formulation of the BGONECO. This one specifically has a pyrethrum in there. And what you'll find with that is that it gives you a 1-2 punch. It works much better than just insecticidal soap on its own. When you're doing the application, we have this MOSSIFY mister that you might have seen around. We have it at Heeman's. We like it because it's a mister that you can have inside for those plants that like the humidity. But the other thing that it does, you can load in your insecticidal soap concentrate with the pyrethrum in there, and you can actually just apply that. So we can turn this guy on, and you'll see that it just runs and mists. And what you can do is you can just hit your plant and mist it, and making sure that you're doing the bottom and the top. And when you're doing this, what I would like to do is just turn it on and apply it to the point where it's misting, like you can see here if we get close, but not beating and running off. That's just a waste of the product, and this is going to help it to stay. I like to do this and then let it dry fully before you start bringing any of your plants indoors, which is why we're doing this video before it starts getting really cold, so you guys can do this beforehand. Once you've applied this, you can also go in with a microfiber cloth, and you can actually wipe the actual leaves once they're dried. So I'm obviously fast forwarding here, but that's going to leave it nice and shiny, and then there's not going to be any issues. If we go down to this cast iron plant here, it was brought outside because it had a really bad spider mite problem, which has now been cleared up. And as you can see down on the bottom, being outside, it started to thrive and really push out a whole lot of growth. So that shows you one of the many benefits of putting your plants outside. But it's got some of that dust that's on it just from being outside and close to the road. So I'm going to wipe that down and get it nice and clean. The last thing that we talk about when we're doing the clean, again, we've got to do the backside as well. Wiping it, if there is any insects there, it's also going to help you to physically get them off the leaf if there are any there, and the insecticidal soap concentrate with the pyrethrum will help as well. And then I take my precision pruners. So we've got these little pruners. Again, you probably have these little ones at home. You can use the bypass pruners, the bigger ones, but I like using these little guys for doing this work. If you have any leaves that are like this, for example, where you've got some that just kind of started to die out, you can clean them up and just make sure that you remove any of those just to get them all nice and clean. If you have any brown tips and you want to clean those out, you can do that too. This is a good time because, again, we're just getting close and familiar with our plant, and it gives us a good chance to make sure that everything is clean on them. If you are doing any of this, I like to round these and put that little bit of a point on it. So if you are looking at it, it doesn't really look like we removed anything on first glance. So this is now nice and clean. We've cleaned up any of the dust that was on it. We've made sure that there's no insects on them. We've cleaned up the leaves so they're nice and green. And now this is ready to start being put into quarantine overnight in our house. When we start to see that the temperatures are forecasted to be 10 degrees or cooler, that should be your signal that we need to start bringing our houseplants that are outside indoors. Usually the temperatures in this area are going to be only cold at night, which is going to be helpful for us to slowly introduce these plants that have been outside all the time into being indoors all the time. This process can shock the plant if we just go from outside to indoors immediately. So we like to plan it over the period of a week or two where we're introducing the plants into being indoors for more and more of the time. If you start to see the temperatures are 7 degrees or colder, we absolutely need to get those indoors, because most houseplants that are tropical will not tolerate growing outside when the temperatures are that cold. All right, so we're going to pretend that the temperature is supposed to be that 10 degrees tonight, so we need to bring our beautiful plant indoors, but we haven't completed our cleaning process, and we're not 100% sure, because we just started on it, that everything on them is killed off and that they're totally good to go indoors. This is where we would introduce a quarantine period. So you'd want to have a space in your home that is separate from your main collection. It doesn't need to be its own room, just far enough away, 6 feet or more away from your main collection, so that if there is, by chance, any pests or any problems that are currently on your plant that you're acclimating back indoors, that they don't jump onto and spread to your main collection. Now, finally, I want to talk about 4 key things with the plant that we need to start thinking about as we go into wintertime, and that is light, humidity, watering, and fertilizer, and making sure that we're adjusting the space that we have for our plant, or the care that we're giving them, so that they're going to continue to be happy as things really change as we go from summer to fall and then into winter. The first thing is, when you're bringing your plant indoors, the humidity that is outside and inside can be very different. So you might need to consider moving them into a space where there's more humidity, or investing in a humidifier, or if you have one from when your kids were growing up, dragging that out and making sure that you've got it on, especially for those plants that really do appreciate having more humidity. You want to have your humidity closer to 60% for most plants to be really happy, and most of our houses, especially when those furnaces start kicking on, are a lot drier than that. The second thing to keep in mind is that when we start to see the seasons change, the light that we're getting, both in the intensity of it and the length of it, is shortening. And this means that even if you have plants that have been inside and happy all summer long, you might need to move them a little bit into a brighter space, because as the wintertime comes on, the light will get less intense, and they could have been happy there in the summertime and then start to struggle because they don't have enough light in their new space. Either moving them to a brighter space, a south or west facing or southwest facing window, is going to be your best bet for those highlight needing plants like your fiddle leaf figs. Or if you don't have that, investing in a grow light to make sure that you've got it there to supplement the light is really going to help. The last and final thing that we really need to focus on is watering and feeding, because as we go into a new season, your plant is going to adjust to its new environment, having less light, less intense light, and it's going to know that and start growing less or using less water. And this means that it's going to be important for us to adjust our schedule accordingly. You can use this good old thing that you got right here, which is called your finger, and actually check the moisture of your soil, and making sure that you actually need to give your plant water, and you're not just giving it because it's Thursday and your phone always says that you should water it on Thursday. If you're not sure, you can always just bring out your moisture meter, if you have one, just to check if your plant actually needs water. But backing off and adjusting your schedule at this time all the way until about March, again, is going to be helpful for you to not drown your plant, because October and November is when we really start hearing from people that their plants are suffering because they have root rot, because they've stuck to the regular summer schedule and your plant just doesn't need as much water now as it did back in the summertime. The last thing is related to fertilizer, plant food. And if you've been fertilizing your plants to keep them healthy and strong and maybe encourage some of that growth that we've had over the summertime, now is the time to back off on it, because as the season changes, your plant is not going to be growing as much, and you won't need to fertilize it quite as often as you were. Oftentimes, plants could get away with maybe a fertilizer application once in the entire season, so twice from now until March, or maybe not at all, depending on the plant that you have. But we want to definitely back off so we're not overstimulating them as they've gone into a more dormant period. Thanks so much for watching this. We hope this has been helpful for you guys if you do have any plants that you're looking to transition indoors. As always, if you have any questions about your plant situation at your place, feel free to send us a direct message, post it in the comments section below, or if you are looking for more information, we have other videos, especially on transitioning your tropical plants that you might want to bring indoors, and there's information on our website as well as a video on our YouTube page. Thanks so much for watching, and enjoy the season ahead with a little bit more of that plant collection closer by in your home.